Before Michael Jackson moonwalked across the stage, before Thriller shattered every record, before he was crowned the king of pop, there was just a skinny kid from Gary, Indiana, with a dream so big it couldn't be contained. But the rise wasn't easy or glamorous. It was full of grind, heartbreak, and moments that would define the future of music forever. These are the 7 defining moments that turned Michael Jackson from a shy, small-town boy into the greatest entertainer the world has ever known. Seven, the Motown audition that changed everything. In July 1968, a 10-year-old Michael Jackson walked into a room that would change his life forever. Up until then, he and his brothers had been hustling through talent shows and tiny clubs around Gary, Indiana. They were good, really good, but they were still local kids with a dream. That day, they auditioned for Berry Gordy, the legendary founder of Motown Records. Motown wasn't just a label, it was the place where stars were made. Stevie Wonder, the Supremes, the Temptations, and now possibly 5 brothers from Indiana. Michael wasn't nervous. Even as the youngest, he had a stage presence that commanded the room. When he started to sing and dance, Gordy and his team were stunned. They weren't just looking at a talented kid, they were looking at lightning in a bottle. By the end of the audition, Gordy didn't hesitate. He signed the Jackson 5 on the spot, moving them from Gary to Detroit and putting the full power of Motown behind them. This was more than just a record deal. It was Michael's official entry into the big leagues. From that moment on, there was no going back. The Jackson 5 weren't just a family act anymore. They were about to become a national sensation. And once America saw Michael perform on live television, there would be no stopping him. 6. Their national TV debut stuns America. Less than a year after signing with Motown, Michael and his brothers were about to step into millions of living rooms across America. On December 14, 1969, the Jackson 5 made their national television debut on The Ed Sullivan Show, a stage where legends like Elvis and the Beatles had performed before them. Diana Ross introduced them personally, presenting them as Motown's newest act. The lights came up, the crowd roared, and an 11-year-old Michael Jackson stole the show. His voice was raw yet soulful, filled with emotion far beyond his years. His dance moves were electric, his energy contagious. The group performed I Want You Back and a heart-wrenching cover of Who's Lovin' You, leaving the audience stunned. Even Ed Sullivan himself, known for his calm, composed demeanor, couldn't hold back. He called Michael the little fella in front and said he was simply incredible. That performance wasn't just good. It was a national breakthrough. Overnight, Michael Jackson went from a talented kid to a rising star. Families across America couldn't stop talking about the boy with the golden voice. And while that single performance launched them into fame, what came next would turn them into a full-blown cultural phenomenon. 5. The Birth of Jacksonmania. Right after that Ed Sullivan performance, the Jackson 5 exploded into superstardom. Their first single, I Want You Back, shot straight to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in January 1970, and they didn't stop there. In an unprecedented run, their next 3 singles, ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There, all hit number 1 as well. 4 back-to-back chart toppers in less than a year. No new group had ever done that before. The world went crazy. Magazines couldn't print posters fast enough, TV specials were dedicated to them, and kids everywhere wanted to dress like Michael. This wasn't just fandom, it was a frenzy. The media called it Jacksonmania, comparing it to Beatlemania just a few years earlier. They had lunchboxes, dolls, comic books, even their own Saturday morning cartoon show. And for the first time, a black teen group had crossed over into mainstream pop culture at a level no one had seen before. By age 12, Michael Jackson wasn't just a star. He was a teen idol with a voice and presence that transcended race, age, and genre. He had the world in the palm of his hand. But Michael wasn't satisfied with just being part of a group. Deep down, he wanted to step out on his own. And in 1972, he proved he could. 4. Michael's first solo number 1 and Hollywood spotlight. By 1972, Michael was already a household name. But people still saw him as the kid brother leading the Jackson 5. He wanted to prove he could stand on his own, and then came a song called Ben. It wasn't a typical pop hit. Ben was a ballad written for a movie about a boy and his pet rat. Sounds odd, right? But when Michael sang it, he turned it into something haunting and beautiful. His voice was tender yet powerful, carrying a depth that stunned critics and fans alike. The song climbed the charts and hit number 1, making Michael the youngest solo artist ever to top the Billboard Hot 100 at the time. It wasn't just a hit, it was history. The success didn't stop there. Ben won a Golden Globe for Best Song and was nominated for an Academy Award. In early 1973, Michael performed it live at the Oscars, standing in front of Hollywood's elite, proving he wasn't just a kid singer, he was a world-class performer. This moment changed everything. It showed that Michael could captivate audiences without his brothers beside him. It was a glimpse into the unstoppable solo force he was destined to become, and while his voice was making headlines, his next move would turn heads for a completely different reason: his dancing. 3. The robot dance on Soul Train. In the early 70s, Michael Jackson wasn't just a singer, he was already shaping himself into a complete performer. And in 1974, he unleashed a dance move that would leave people's jaws on the floor. On Soul Train, while performing Dancing Machine with his brothers, 15-year-old Michael stunned the audience by breaking into the robot. At the time, no one had seen anything like it on television. His movements were sharp, mechanical, and impossibly precise, like he'd been taken over by a machine. The crowd went wild. The performance instantly went viral in the pre-internet era, spreading through word of mouth, TV reruns, and dance clubs. Overnight, the robot became a national craze, and Michael became the face of it. But this wasn't just a cool move. It was the first clear sign that Michael wasn't just following trends, he was creating them. He had the vision and creativity to turn a single moment into a cultural shift. This performance cemented Michael as a dance innovator. Years before the moonwalk, he was already setting the standard for what pop performance could be. And while the world was busy copying his moves, Michael was preparing to take a completely different leap, one that would set the stage for his future superstardom. 2. The Wiz and a life-changing connection. By the late 70s, Michael was ready to break free from Motown and the bubblegum pop image that had defined his childhood. He wanted to be seen as a serious artist, someone with depth and vision. That's when he made a bold move into acting. In 1978, Michael took on the role of the Scarecrow in The Wiz, a Motown-backed film adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, starring Diana Ross. For Michael, it was a chance to show the world he wasn't just a singer, he was a full-fledged entertainer. The movie itself was a box office flop, but behind the scenes, something extraordinary happened. On set, Michael met a man who would change his career forever: Quincy Jones. Quincy was already a legendary producer and jazz musician. He saw something in Michael that others didn't: a raw, untapped potential just waiting to explode. The two formed a friendship and began discussing how Michael could reinvent himself as an adult solo star. This meeting was the turning point. The Wiz may have failed financially, but it gave Michael the creative partner he needed to level up. Together, they would soon craft a sound that would revolutionize pop music. And just 1 year later, Michael would take his first giant step toward becoming the king of pop. 1. Off the Wall and the Birth of a Superstar. In 1979, everything Michael had been working toward came together. With Quincy Jones as his producer and creative partner, Michael stepped into the studio with a mission: to finally define himself as an adult artist, separate from the Jackson 5. The result was Off the Wall, an album that completely changed the game. It wasn't just a collection of songs, it was a statement. Michael fused pop, disco, R&B, and funk into a sound that felt both modern and timeless. Tracks like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You weren't just hits, they were cultural earthquakes. The album produced 4 top 10 singles, 2 of which hit #1, and it went on to sell over 20 million copies worldwide. Michael's performances on the record were electric, his vocals more mature, confident, and soulful than ever before. Critics praised it, fans couldn't get enough, and for the first time, Michael wasn't just a teen idol or a member of a group, he was a global solo superstar in his own right. He even won his first Grammy as an adult artist for Best R&B Vocal Performance with Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. But perhaps most importantly, Off the Wall proved to the world, and to Michael himself, that he could stand alone at the top. It laid the foundation for what came next: Thriller, the moonwalk, and the transformation into the king of pop. This wasn't just the start of a new chapter, it was the beginning of a legend. Before the moonwalk and Thriller, Michael Jackson was just a kid chasing a dream. From that first Motown audition to topping the charts with Off the Wall, every moment built the foundation for his legendary career. These early years weren't just the start. They were proof of his unstoppable drive and vision. Which of these moments surprised you most? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep Michael's legacy alive. Because before he was the king of pop, he was just Michael.